Look at you. No shoes, no chance. This track is for runners, not beggars. The champion's words cut through the air like a blade, loud enough for the whole stadium to hear. The crowd burst into laughter, some pointing, others shaking their heads. A poor black boy stood there, barefoot on the shining track, dust clinging to his ankles. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He only lowered his eyes, as if the weight of every insult pressed against his chest. The champion smirked, stepping closer. "Go home, boy, before you embarrass yourself." More laughter followed, cruel and heavy, echoing across the stands. Reporters chuckled. Coaches sneered. To them, he was a joke. But inside the boy's silence burned a fire. Steady, fierce, unbreakable. He clenched his fists, his heart pounding louder than the jeers. They saw a beggar. They saw weakness. But what they didn't see was greatness waiting to run. The champion wasn't finished. His voice carried like thunder, sharp with arrogance. "Do you even know where you are, boy? This is my track. This is the stage of kings. You don't belong here. You're nothing but a barefoot dreamer." The crowd roared with laughter, feeding on his pride. Some shouted, "Run back home!" Others shook their heads, pity in their eyes. But the boy didn't flinch. He stood still, shoulders squared, breathing slow, as though their insults bounced off a wall no one else could see. The champion chuckled again, tilting his head. "Don't waste my time. You can't even afford shoes. How will you afford to lose?" Cameras clicked, capturing every sneer, every moment of humiliation. Yet behind the boy's silence, something stirred. His eyes lifted not with anger, but with a quiet fire. The crowd saw a beggar. The champion saw a fool. But the boy? He was waiting. Waiting for the moment when silence would speak louder than mockery. The stadium quieted for a breath, waiting for him to walk away. But he didn't. The barefoot boy lifted his head. His eyes steady, locked on the champion. The crowd leaned in. Would he cry? Would he run? His lips parted, his voice low but sharp enough to cut through the laughter. "Just let me." 3 words, nothing more. Yet they struck harder than any insult. The champion blinked, caught off guard, then threw his head back with a cruel laugh. You want to run with me? Fine, let the boy embarrass himself. Let the world see what happens when you chase dreams you'll never catch. The crowd cheered for the show, eager to watch him fail. Reporters scribbled furiously, ready to write the headline, "Barefoot Boy Defeated." But in the boy's silence, in his clenched fists, there was something no headline could capture. He wasn't running for gold. He wasn't running for glory. He was running for something the champion could never understand. The referee raised the gun. The crowd roared, eager for the humiliation they thought was coming. The champion stretched with ease, flashing his medals as if to remind the world who ruled this track. Beside him, the barefoot boy crouched low, his toes gripping the ground, his heartbeat louder than the noise around him. A hush fell. The gun fired. Crack! The champion launched forward with power, his stride smooth, rehearsed, perfect. But behind him, the boy moved. One step, then another. His bare feet slammed against the track, rough, raw, yet unshaken. The crowd laughed at first. "He won't last a second," someone shouted. But then the laughter faded, because his pace didn't falter. His stride grew stronger. Each step carried not just muscle, but something deeper. Hunger, fire, destiny. The champion smirked, glancing back with arrogance. Yet what he saw made his grin vanish. The barefoot boy was not falling behind. He was chasing. He was closing in. The stadium leaned forward, eyes widening. Every stride the boy took was faster, sharper, stronger. Dust kicked up beneath his bare feet, but he didn't stumble. He didn't slow. His body moved like it had been carved for this moment. The champion's smirk began to fade. He pushed harder, muscles straining, but the sound behind him grew louder. Tap, tap, tap. The barefoot rhythm was closing in. "Impossible," a coach whispered, his jaw dropping. He shouldn't even be keeping up. Reporters froze, pens suspended midair. Spectators who once laughed now clutched the rails, eyes wide with disbelief. The champion glanced over his shoulder, and what he saw made his pride crack. The boy wasn't just running, he was flying. His eyes blazed with focus, his breath steady, his body surging forward with a strength no one had seen before. The crowd went silent, the laughter gone. What they had mocked only moments ago was now rewriting history in real time. The champion gritted his teeth, his polished shoes pounding the track, every muscle screaming as he fought to stay ahead. But the sound of bare feet grew louder. Tap, tap, tap. It was relentless. It was haunting. The boy surged forward, his stride stretching, his body cutting through the wind. In seconds, he was no longer behind. He was beside. The stadium erupted, a tidal wave of gasps and shouts. Reporters dropped their pens. Coaches leapt to their feet. "This can't be real," one muttered, unable to believe what his eyes saw. The champion snarled, pumping harder, sweat dripping from his brow. But the boy? His face was calm, almost serene, as though every step was guided by something greater. The crowd leaned forward, torn between fear and awe, watching the impossible unfold. Two runners, one in gold, one in dust, side by side, stride for stride. And for the first time, the champion looked terrified. The champion roared, every vein straining as he pushed his body to the limit. His medals, his pride, his name, all on the line. But the boy? He was different. His face showed no fear, no desperation. His breath flowed steady, his steps unbroken, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He wasn't chasing gold. He wasn't chasing applause. He was chasing something the champion could never buy, something no trophy could hold, belief. Every step carried the memory of being laughed at, mocked, told he was nothing. Every stride was a refusal to accept the chains others had placed on him. The crowd could feel it, the raw truth in the way he moved. Some wept, some shouted, some prayed aloud, knowing they were witnessing more than a race. The champion ran for glory. The boy ran for freedom, and freedom was faster. The champion's face twisted with fury, sweat pouring, his breath ragged as he forced his body harder than ever before. The crowd screamed, willing him to hold his lead. But then it happened. The barefoot boy leaned forward, his stride lengthening, his speed surging like a storm breaking free. One step, then another, and suddenly, he wasn't beside the champion anymore. He was ahead. Gasps ripped through the stadium. "No, it can't be!" a commentator shouted, voice cracking with disbelief. The boy's bare feet pounded the track like thunder. Faster, stronger, unstoppable. The champion's arms flailed, his power fading, his pride crumbling with every second. The crowd was on its feet, some screaming, some crying, as they watched the unthinkable unfold. A boy with nothing, no shoes, no riches, no name, was leaving the world champion in his dust. And with each stride, the stadium realized they weren't just watching a race, they were watching a miracle. The finish line glimmered ahead, a white stripe painted across destiny itself. The champion clawed at the air, his strides desperate, his pride collapsing with every step he failed to gain. But the barefoot boy, he was different. His arms moved like wings, his chest forward, his feet hammering the ground with unshakable rhythm. The crowd was no longer laughing, they were roaring, screaming his name, though most had never known it until this moment. Some stood on their seats, hands on their heads, unable to believe what their eyes told them. The champion's roar turned to silence. His medals meant nothing now, his title slipping away as the boy surged ahead. With one final burst, the barefoot runner crossed the line, not stumbling, not broken but triumphant. The stadium erupted into chaos, half in disbelief, half in awe. A poor boy with no shoes had done the impossible, and the world would never be the same. Silence swept the track. The champion bent over, defeated, gasping for air, his pride shattered. Reporters who came to mock now fumbled with cameras, desperate to capture history. Parents clutched their children, whispering, "Remember this day." And in the center stood the barefoot boy, calm, unshaken, his chest rising with steady breaths. No medals hung around his neck. No spotlight crowned his head. Yet he had something greater. He had proven to the world that greatness is not measured by wealth, titles, or shoes. It is born in the fire of the heart. The crowd erupted, but he didn't raise his arms in victory. He simply bowed his head as if saying, "This was never about beating him. It was about believing me." And from that day, the story of the barefoot boy spread across the world. A reminder carved in history. You don't need to look like a champion to be one. You only need the courage to run your race.